If you love cinematic deep dives into the machines that shaped pop culture, you're in for a treat. Because today, we're going back to Gotham to explore one of the most iconic cars ever built, the 1966 Batmobile. A car so bold, so ahead of its time, that it turned a superhero's ride into a real-world engineering miracle. But behind the flames and fins lie secrets, shortcuts, and unbelievable facts that most fans have never heard. So buckle up, hit that like button if you love legendary machines, and let's uncover the strange, fascinating truth behind the Batmobile that started it all. A Hollywood miracle on a 3-week deadline. In 1965, television producer William Dozier needed a Batmobile, fast. The Batman TV series was going into production in just a few weeks, and there was no car ready to film. Enter George Barris, Hollywood's custom car genius, known for turning ordinary vehicles into extraordinary movie icons. But even Barris couldn't build a car from scratch in that time. So he did something brilliant. He reached into his garage and pulled out a forgotten concept car. The 1955 Lincoln Futura, a one-off prototype built by Ford for auto shows a decade earlier. It had been sitting, unused, collecting dust. Barris bought it years before for just $1. In just 21 days, he transformed that futuristic Lincoln into the world's first live-action Batmobile, welding fins, cutting canopies, and painting it in jet black with crimson accents. What looked like a high-budget design was really a desperate, last-minute masterpiece. A real car, not just a prop. Unlike most movie cars of the era, the 1966 Batmobile was a real, fully functioning vehicle. Beneath its jet-age shell was a Lincoln Continental chassis with a V8 engine that could actually do 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 5 seconds. Impressive even by 1960s standards. And all those gadgets, they worked. The car had an operational flamethrower, activated by a button inside the cockpit, the same one that shot flames out the rear turbine in the opening credits. The Batphone connected to the production team during shoots. Even the Bat Ray projector and Bat Smoke were functional, using repurposed aircraft parts and theatrical smoke systems. The car that couldn't turn. Here's the weird part. Despite its sleek, futuristic looks, the 1966 Batmobile handled terribly. Beneath the dramatic bodywork and turbine flair was still the aging skeletons of the 1955 Lincoln Futura, a concept car built for display, not for driving agility. It was never designed to take corners, accelerate quickly, or even brake smoothly. The steering was heavy, the suspension soft, and the turning radius was enormous, closer to a city bus than a sports car. Stretching over 19 feet long and tipping the scales at nearly 5,500 pounds, it was a beast to maneuver. Stunt drivers had to choreograph every move, often rehearsing turns long before the cameras rolled. On the tight Batcave set, things were even worse. The car was so wide that crew members frequently had to move walls, props, or lighting rigs just to let it pass. At times, the Batmobile scraped set pieces or got wedged during scenes, forcing retakes. Ironically, the car that looked built for speed was in reality a lumbering tank in disguise, powerful, iconic, but almost impossible to tame. Hidden fire hazard. That rear turbine flame effect looked amazing on screen, but it was dangerous. The system used real fuel and an aircraft-style ignition, and sometimes the flames shot several feet out of the exhaust. During early shoots, the heat melted parts of the fiberglass rear bodywork and even scorched the Bat logo. Barris eventually had to redesign the rear flame setup to keep it from setting the studio on fire. The car's secret price tag. Here's a fact that surprises almost everyone, and perfectly captures the Batmobile's unlikely rise from scrap metal to superstardom. When George Barris took on the challenge of transforming the Lincoln Futura into the Batmobile, the entire build, from body modifications and fiberglass shaping to paint, electronics, and those now iconic gadgets, cost around $15,000 in 1966. That's roughly $145,000 to $160,000 in today's money, depending on how you calculate inflation. Think about that. A car that would become one of the most recognizable machines in pop culture history was built on a budget smaller than many modern compact cars. Barris didn't have high-tech tools or a Hollywood-sized budget. He relied on craftsmanship, imagination, and instinct, carving fins by hand, shaping metal with basic equipment, and experimenting with off-the-shelf parts to create movie magic on a deadline. Even the paint was improvised genius. The glossy black finish wasn't ordinary automotive paint. It was a metallic blend infused with reflective red highlights, designed to shimmer dramatically under studio lights. The result was a car that looked like liquid midnight, far more expensive than it actually was. For years, the Batmobile's true value was sentimental rather than financial. After the TV series ended, it became a touring showpiece, appearing at fairs, expos, and charity events across America. Kids lined up to see it. Adults marveled that something so fantastical could exist in real life. Yet few realized it was a one-off custom built from a forgotten concept car that Ford had once abandoned. Then came January 2013, when history was made. At the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction in Scottsdale, Arizona, the original, screen-used 1966 Batmobile rolled across the stage. Collectors held their breath. The hammer finally fell at a staggering $4.62 million. That sale wasn't just about owning a car, it was about owning a piece of television mythology, a tangible artifact of 1960s imagination and design. The buyer, famed car collector Rick Champagne, reportedly drove it straight off the auction floor to celebrate. From a $1 concept car to a multi-million-dollar legend, the Batmobile's journey is more than a success story. It's a testament to the enduring power of creativity. In an era of disposable entertainment, it remains proof that when design and storytelling collide just right, even the cheapest project can become priceless. It changed superhero cars forever. Before 1966, comic book vehicles were just fantasy sketches, artistic flourishes on a printed page that hinted at power but lacked substance. They were symbols, not machines, imaginative drawings of what cool might look like, unbound by physics or engineering. Fans could dream about them, but no one could hear their engines, touch their bodywork, or watch them come alive under studio lights. Then came the 1966 Batmobile, and everything changed. For the first time, a comic book car wasn't just illustrated, it existed. You could see it roar down a real street, flames bursting from its turbine, gadgets popping from hidden panels. It was a work of imagination made tangible, and that single leap reshaped not just Batman's image, but the entire relationship between superheroes and their machines. The Batmobile became a character of its own, not a mere accessory, but a co-star. It reflected Batman's personality, dark, mysterious, stylish, and ahead of its time. Every line, every gadget, every inch of chrome told part of his story. It showed that a car could carry narrative weight, that design could express identity just as powerfully as dialogue or costume. From that moment on, every superhero car had to live up to the Batmobile. George Barris's creation set the blueprint, a fusion of design and myth. The concept of blending futuristic style with functional theatrics became the gold standard for every hero's ride to come. You can trace its influence across decades. Tim Burton's 1989 Batmobile took Barris's elegance and injected Gothic menace, stretching it into a black rocket on wheels, part cathedral, part weapon. Then came Christopher Nolan's Tumbler, a brutalist evolution that turned the Batmobile into a military-grade assault vehicle, reflecting the realism of the modern Batman era. Even the sleek digital age versions in video games and animated films still borrow the core DNA. The long silhouette, the glowing accents, the feeling that the car is as alive as its driver. Every generation reinvents it, but none escape its shadow. Because the 1966 Batmobile wasn't just a car, it was the moment fantasy crossed into reality, and it proved that sometimes a machine can become just as iconic as the hero who drives it. A living legend. Today, the original 1966 Batmobile still exists, lovingly preserved and fully restored to its television glory. It sits like a crown jewel in automotive history, often appearing at major car museums, comic conventions, and private collector events around the world. When it rolls out, crowds still gather as if Batman himself were about to step out. Every detail, from the glowing red trim to the bubble canopy, remains a time capsule of mid-century futurism and Hollywood imagination. The car's restoration wasn't just cosmetic, it was a resurrection. Years of exposure, film wear, and touring had taken their toll, but specialists painstakingly rebuilt every inch, referencing Barris's original design notes and production photos. The goal wasn't modernization, it was preservation. Even the original Lincoln chassis and hand-shaped fiberglass panels were maintained wherever possible, ensuring the Batmobile remains authentic to its 1960s roots. But beyond being a showpiece, the Batmobile stands as a symbol of creativity under impossible pressure. Proof that when ingenuity meets urgency, miracles can happen. What began as a forgotten concept car became, through a combination of craftsmanship, vision, and a bit of Hollywood luck, one of the most recognized vehicles on the planet. It reminds us that great design doesn't always come from unlimited budgets or perfect conditions. Sometimes, it's born in chaos, built on instinct, and refined by pure passion. And that's what gives the Batmobile its soul. It's more than fiberglass and chrome. It's storytelling on wheels, a rolling metaphor for reinvention. Each fin, each glowing stripe, each turbine flare represents a dream made real in an era before CG1, when every illusion had to exist physically, in metal and flame. When you see those sweeping fins catching the light, that red pinstripe glowing against black lacquer, and that jet turbine roar echoing across a soundstage, you're not just looking at a car. You're witnessing the birth of an icon, the moment when fantasy and engineering collided to create something larger than life. Nearly 60 years later, the Batmobile still embodies what every fan, designer, and dreamer wants from a machine: personality, power, and a touch of magic. It's not just the car that carried Batman, it's the one that carried generations of imaginations forward. So, what do you think? Did you know the Batmobile's origin story was this wild? Which version, the classic, Burton's, or Nolan's, do you think best captured Batman's spirit? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit like if you enjoyed this deep dive, and subscribe for more cinematic breakdowns of the cars that defined generations. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and never underestimate what a creative mind can build in just 3 weeks.